Now, today marks the International Day of the Girl Child. It's aimed at recognizing the challenges faced by the girl child. Young women around the world face growing challenges that prevent them from enjoying their right to education, health and, of course, safety. In some countries, women are still facing discrimination and abuse. To talk about this and more, we're joined by Emmanuelle Compigt, who is the UF Eastern and Southern Africa Gender Advisor. Emmanuelle, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon, and maybe just start by painting a broad picture of how dire the situation is against the progressing of the girl child in different parts of the world.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I think we're celebrating the 10-year anniversary of the International Day of the Girls, and what we see over the last 10 years is like there have been increased attention by government in the matters that affect girls, from gender-based violence, for making sure they go to school, for making sure they have destigmatized menstrual health, but there have been very limited investment in girls. So that's what we want to call today. Like, we know when girls are when they're thriving, we're all thriving. So in our regions, what we can say is like we are facing a triple crisis, as you know, from COVID, climate, and conflict, and has really worsened the challenge for girls. And maybe today, I would like to maybe share with you three main effects that we feel among girls. First, regarding HIV, we know that in Eastern and Southern Africa, more than 3,000 girls every week are getting newly affected. This is more than 86% of the new infections among adolescents. Adolescent pregnancy is quite significant. We have the worst adolescent pregnancy rate in Eastern and Southern Africa. I was in Uganda recently, and in a health center where they welcome adolescent girls, and it was overcrowded. And the nurse told me it was triple in terms of every month's delivery by adolescent girls. And finally, gender-based violence. All the crises that I mentioned have worsened the effect on girls. And one of the form of violence we see is child marriage. We know that globally, if we're not acting fast on child marriage, and we're doing more, there will be 20 more million girls that will become married before the age of 18 in the next 10 years. South Sudan, Mozambique are some countries where there is alarming trend. And all of that is coming with the same effect on girls. They are disrupting their education. It comes with a huge social cost, as there is a strong stigma associated with pregnancy, with marriage. And as a result, they have reduced economic poverty, and they are trapped in a cycle of poverty.
And it's so important to realize that there is an important link between the girls that are getting pregnant from the ages of about 10 to the age of 15 and gender-based violence, because a lot of that is as a result of a young girl being violated or being infected with HIV. Just based on that, for example, and other situations that they find themselves in, have you found that there is enough of a political will from governments to try and deal with and ultimately alleviate these issues that we're currently facing?
Yes, I must say we see some progress. And in our region, again, I'd like to share, like last December, actually, all Ministry of Education, all Ministry of Health gathered in South Africa, and they adopted and reaffirmed the East and Southern Africa commitments for adolescents. And there's a strong component on comprehensive sexuality education. And so there is a pledge from government to increase access to sexual and reproductive health and rights. But I think we need to do more. Like, it's not only up to the girls to claim their rights, but they need to be in a supportive environment. So beyond governments, we, as UNICEF, we also work with religious and tribal leaders. We work with families and communities, especially to make sure that they also play their part in making sure girls can reach their potential. So something, for instance, that we welcome is like a number of new policy, for instance, in Tanzania, in Uganda, in Malawi, where the Ministry of Education has adopted reintegration guidelines for pregnant adolescents and adolescent mothers so they can go back to schools. But what we see is like in the implementations, it's still a challenge, and we need to work with teachers and parents for making sure that these new policies that are very courageous and important are actually implemented.